Welcome, everybody, and we are back. It is me. It is the Cyber Warrior. This is Cyber Warrior Studios, and I know you're all here for another amazing episode of Security Happy Hour. As you can see, my lovely logo has disappeared. I'm sorry, I lost my remote, but don't worry. Hopefully, it'll be back next week. But otherwise, we got an amazing show planned, as always, because that's how we do around here. All right? Nothing goes by the wayside. All things are up for grabs, all topics, and we're just going to make it happen because we're going to do big things. We're going to make big things happen. Now, while you're here, please like, comment, share, subscribe, all those fun things if you haven't done so yet. And I promise you we'll be back in just a second with our guest, Ellie Ashton. And we're back. And hold on, wait. There it is, the official kickoff Security Happy Hour. I am glad you were all here this evening. It's going to be an amazing episode. We got a lot of things planned, a lot of topics to talk about. First and foremost is going to be the learning curve in GRC. But before we get into that, Ellie, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. How are you doing, man?
Man, I am fantastic. It is a great day. It's Freya's Day. It's Friday. It's all about positivity and love, brother. That's all it is, and that's all we do around here.
There we go. I'm all for it. What's been the best part of your week, man?
I was on PTO all week, so having a whole week off, that was great.
Fair enough. I'm all for it. Nice.
So, I mean, I've heard you had a crazy day. I'm just saying. I heard your day was kind of psychotic. There were some people that it got a little crazy. All right, that's all I'm gonna say.
Yep, just a little bit. We're here though. It's all good. Made it through.
So, good to have you all here. And yes, for those just joining us, my logo is missing. I lost my TV remote. I will be finding it before next week's episode, so don't you worry. But otherwise, if you want to support this show, before we get started, please like, comment, subscribe, and come back after if you are here live. Because if you're here live, your comments, your interactions do not count towards the algorithm that is YouTube. Which means I need you to come back, watch the entire episode again, even if it's on mute, and leave your comments down below. Share this and let everybody else know we're here. But saying that, Ellie, let us know how you got into GRC, since you want to talk the learning curve that is GRC.
So I was able to hop into the accelerator program at the company I'm at now. It really seemed interesting to me. I was working in civil engineering prior to this, so doing all kinds of work, whether it be with residential buildings there, like apartment complexes, or more complex stuff like bridges and railways. And then I started to go and look around a bit, and cyber caught my eye. I really liked the attention to detail, and again in GRC being able to be client facing, and saw an opportunity roll up in front of me. So when I did right in, as soon as I saw it happen, like, okay, let's go take a shot.
That's awesome. And I know one of the people you work with. I know Natalie. She's been on the show before. Amazing person. Knows, from SOC to GRC. She's, kind of done a lot for a lot of people and a lot of organizations. Amazing person to work with. How has working with her kind of helped your career and kind of your learning curve as far as learning GRC in and of itself?
Working with her has been a phenomenal time. She has such a wide amount of information that she's able to hand off to me any chance she gets. She's extremely open and available to receiving questions, and has made the process much faster and quicker, and just overall the comprehension, processing, and bringing it into actual application has I would say streamline the process at least a few years, to be honest with you.
And that's awesome, because it's always good. And we talked about this a few episodes back. It's always good to have those leaders that are going to encourage you and help you grow and learn within any career field, let alone within cybersecurity and GRC, blue team, red team, whatever the case may be. So when you find them and they encourage you and kind of help you and allow you to ask questions and do things, it's very encouraging. So as far as learning GRC, how hard has it been for you, especially coming from something like civil engineering?
At first, for the first few months, I would say it was rather difficult for me to just grasp the concepts, have a foundation in what's actually going on. having the proper tools, resources, and having Natalie as well was really helpful. But the dynamic was different. The process was different. I'm used to, whether it be from civil engineering or from sports in college, A plus B equals C. That is not the case here. So it's a little getting to go and learn how this equation is a bit different, being able to use practical applications and thought processes and being able to at least take the thought process, make it more gray versus black and white. So that took a few months to wrap my head around, and it's still growing.
Well, and this is a field, and if you look at it, and from a GRC standpoint, right, governance, risk, and compliance, there's going to be a lot of changes on a regular basis. Now, it is one thing within, blue teams and red teams, which have constant vulnerabilities and mitigations and patches and things like that from a technical aspect they got to look at. But from a GRC aspect, you got to look at it from, okay, you figure CMMC 2.0 is coming out or just came out. I forget what version they're in, if 2.0 is official or not. But then you've also got PCI DSS and, the variations of that, depending on how much credit card data you process. And you have all these other different regulations that companies have to abide by. So how hard is it to understand and really keep up with those different regulations? Or do you find it easier to go from like a framework, say NIST or the CIS framework, and then translate that to maybe a regulation like CMMC?
I think it's easier to go from a framework like NIST and then translate over, at least for me. When I came in, I started working with the NIST framework there, so that is my foundation. Mm-hmm. It's like me going speaking Spanish or what have you. I take everything from I know in English and try to go and translate it prior to saying anything to that degree. So
yeah, and I'd say the same, because I think even with NIST and the CIS benchmarks and things like that, they don't change as often. They're pretty foundational, and they have, unless something exceptional comes along, whether it's a new technology that goes above and beyond. So like you look at things like IoT or AI, they don't change often. The frameworks stay the same. It's firewalls, it's foundational, tech stack. It's the implementation thereof that the regulations then carry forward. So I do understand how understanding the frameworks and what they recommend and then translating that to a regulation could definitely help. So what's your favorite regulation?
That's a great question. I haven't thought about that. I think you've got me on that one. Ooh.
I'll tell you which one I hate the most.
What do you got?
PCI. I despise PCI. Because I think PCI is, I think it comes down more so to the auditors, but PCI is a check the box. It is the bare minimum. Do you have a firewall and is it logging? Yes. Okay. Not are you checking the logs, not are you validating, not are you doing anything, just do you have? Yes. Okay, cool. Really? That's all we're checking for? We're not going to look at the rule sets, we're not going to look at, the applications, we're not going to look at the in-depth tech stack and the vulnerabilities that exist and what's mitigating them. All right, cool. Then anybody can pass this. And now a lot of that comes down to the auditors, right? Whether or not the auditors actually do their job and validate this information. But I think a lot of these regulations are check the box, especially with a lot of auditors. You just come in there and do you have? Yep. All right, cool. You're good. No proof needed.
Yeah. That makes sense to me. Yeah, if you're not down in the details, not asking the whys, right? Going behind that checkbox, I can see how that can it just sets you up for failure essentially.
It can, and but I think we have this problem now. Now, from your aspect, how long have you been in GRC now?
Coming up on a year. Coming up on a year though. So.
All right. So when you're short year time frame, right? Brand new. Do you feel that a lot of these organizations are still utilizing those regulations as a check the box standpoint?
From my experience, I guess from my experience, from what I can see, no. I've worked mostly within the FedRAMP kind of world there,
Mhm.
so getting things up to date from there. But if I were to go take a day and go look through Google, what have you, look up all whatever I have to go find, I can feel as though there's probably a majority on the checkbox end, just from the sheer depth of work and the depth of detail you have to go into.
Yeah, and I would agree. I think now I don't do much in the federal sector anymore, if at all. Um, so FedRAMP is just kind of I don't even pay attention to it. But from a standpoint of critical infrastructure, because that's where my father works, um, and then looking at hospitals and things like that, high trust PCI DSS is huge for me because of all of what we do as consumers. That data is important and how they utilize it and how it gets processed. So I look at a lot of those things, and I think, and Griffin actually says it here. Compliance in general is just a checkbox. It really depends on the security and audit teams to validate beyond just the basics. And it's like I said, it goes to, if they have a firewall, are they logging it? If they're logging it, what are the rules? What are the alerts? What ports do you have open? What do you have closed? What's your entire, blocking, your blacklist and your whitelist and things of that nature? I think a lot more of that needs to come into play, and it doesn't. And even if they were to bring it into play, auditors would not know what they were looking at, or they wouldn't just not care because of how much work it would take, and would just check the box anyways. I think security is always going to come on the back end. It's going to be in the back burner, even with GRC.
Yeah, I can see that. I agree with you there.
But the flip side of that is GRC enables your blue teams and provides funding to your blue teams and red teams. Without GRC, we don't have security.
Agreed. It's definitely a critical part to making the whole system run.
I mean, so many of these organizations only have security teams because of the regulations they have to abide by. I would not have a job as a security provider if I didn't have GRC, because a lot of these companies just want to cut security. We don't want to pay them. That's fine, but per regulation, you need security, so you might want to pay us. Like,
Right.
just throwing it out there. You might want to pay us if you don't want to pay an individual set of team. So GRC is a necessity. I don't know. Do you see any way to improve GRC or improve regulation to hold companies accountable?
That is a really good question. From my perspective, really, it's going and allocating more resources to it, right? Taking the time to really get the proper people into place so that you can get eyes on every facet, every aspect, because it is so detail oriented that if it's only 1 to 2 sets of eyes, things may get missed, things may get overlooked, things. So bringing really on the company side, bringing in more to be able to allow others to really provide their perspective on the team. And then from the outside view, it's applying the regulations. I think it's applying stricter regulations at the bottom, right? Because like you mentioned, it's all check boxes, mostly at the lowest end. So it's bringing the floor up just a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that. I think that's I think it's going to be a combination of everything. Trying to think of a way to, because from my standpoint, finding companies and organizations isn't enough, Because if you go too high, then they're going to find ways around it that are going to be a serious detriment to security, right? Whether it's the auditors or the organizations in general. Or you're going to put small businesses out of business because they can't afford some of the things. But if you go too low, then these multi-billion-dollar organizations just don't care. It's a drop in the bucket. So what do they care if they got to pay 10 grand a year for not being compliant? All right, cool, whatever. So it's trying to find the happy medium that's not going to put a small business broke and bankrupt, but actually make an impact on these larger organizations, I think is what will make a difference. But at the same time, I hate regulation in that I don't think the government should have anything to do with that. But I think they're the only ones that can impose anything because us as consumers aren't doing our due diligence. So Target got breached. Huge. Crushed. Home Depot. Crushed. What did we do? I'm still going to shop at Target and go buy everything there. I'm still going to go shop at Home Depot and buy everything there. I'm still going to go to these places, give them my money, and who cares about the reputation because they have what I want, so I don't care. So what do we put more value in? Our data, which these companies willfully lost, or the reputation and what these companies are not doing to protect you as a consumer?
I'm tracking on that. Okay, I see. What if there's an opportunity one day, it's an arbitrary thing, that there's an actual financial incentive to being more secure, right? Because it's regulations there.
That's the kicker. Instead of making it a punishment, making it an incentive. You make it an incentive, and a good incentive for some of these companies, especially your smaller businesses, then they're like, oh, okay, I have to do all this, and I'm going to get paid, or I'm going to get a tax break, or I'm going to get whatever the case may be. But it's an incentive versus a punishment. And it's that I got kids. So it depends on how you want to raise your kids, right? Do you want to punish them all the time, or do you want to give them an incentive to do good things? I'd rather give them incentive to do good versus punish them for doing something they were told not to. So I think that incentive idea is actually a great idea. It's just a matter of how do you implement it.
Right. And then that's the difficult part, right? How do you regulate the implementation, and how do you go and navigate that? But in an ideal world, that might work better.
I honestly think it would work a lot better than what we have. Just because right now we are in a situation where every day our data is lost. Now, granted, we give our data to Google, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, any of these big FANG organizations. We give them our data all the time. Every day. You're on Twitter, you're on, or X, whatever you want to call it now. You're on these sites, LinkedIn, and all of the major social platforms, with the exception of Meta, have been bought out by like Google, Facebook, or Google, Amazon, or Microsoft. So it's basically becoming monopolized. These four companies, or five. Apple doesn't really count; they keep their own ecosystem. So we'll say four run everything. Everything you do in this world is run by four companies: Meta, Google, Amazon, and Microsoft. They have all of your information, every last bit of it. So how do you incentivize these organizations that are selling your data and can make whatever money, they don't care, to be more secure?
Yeah, that's a hell of a question, to be honest with you.
Because you could look at the smallers, right? The banks, the SMBs, the I don't know, Fortune 100. I always mix up what's better, Fortune 100, 500, all those other things. But basically, you look at your small to mid-sized businesses. The incentives make sense. But once you hit this, once your CEOs are making billions of dollars or even multimillionaires on a yearly basis, on top of what the organization itself makes, nothing can really affect them from a government standpoint, from an incentive standpoint, because what are you gonna do? Give them a mill? They make that in a month. What do they care? You know what I mean? Like, so how do we change things and alter things to make it worthwhile for our security to actually take precedence?
Right, so that may be something where there becomes a lowered regulation in the production sector of that business, possibly, right? They have a little more freedom to be able to go do whatever it is they want to actually focus on. Like, let's say we're to say Apple, maybe it's a little bit freer to go trade the products overseas if their security world is more secure, right? If it's actually hitting a certain mark. It's just an idea.
I like that idea. And again, everything, because it's a catch-22, right? Nothing's going to be perfect. You have to find the good with the bad. And so when I look at things, it's either data or money is the only way you're really going to succeed in the world that we live in now. So you got to find what's going to work. So back to learning curves, though. We're gonna circle back around just because that is the topic of the day, and y'all know I like to just go around in circles every once in a while, and I love you all. But would you think, from your perspective, being in civil engineering, coming to GRC, was it easier coming to GRC than you thought it was going to be, or do you think it would have been easier to go a more technical route?
Ooh. I wouldn't say GRC was easy, but it was
I didn't say
definitely
easy. I said easier.
Easier. Okay. I would say easier because if I were to go take my transition from the business and econ world, finance world into civil engineering, because I took that route, and going into a technical world like that was extremely difficult, and just being tossed out into the project off the bat was like, okay, how do I navigate this? How do I work with this? And just learning that was an intense curve to learn from, especially on a technical side. So I would say GRC would be easier.
Would that be your advice for? We're going to get into your legit advice, like a full spiel here at the end, or at least I try to. But for right now, for those trying to break into the industry from different areas, whether it be pharmaceuticals, I got some people that have been on that are in the pharmacy world, the pharmacy techs, and various other areas, hospitality and everything else. Would you say GRC from a standpoint of just knowing regulation and policy versus understanding all the technical details of everything, would you say GRC is easier to get your foot in the door in security versus something like a blue team or red team?
I'd say GRC would be easier to get your foot into the door, for sure.
Do you think it was different? How long did it take for you to get a GRC job once you decided to go for it?
Ooh, I don't have that metric off the top of my head, to be honest with you. I wasn't tracking that.
Would you say a couple months or over a year?
Couple months into there, but I think I got rather fortunate or lucky in that perspective. Things just lined up, and I was looking at the right time. So that's
what played the biggest factor. Was it your network, or was it your prior experience with civil engineering and finance and everything else?
I would say my network helped me out the most in that dynamic, and then the background really added value from that point forward. But it's the network that got me into the door.
Yeah, and I think that's usually the biggest thing. Your network plays a huge role, and in GRC, a lot of times they look for, do you know X, Y, and Z regulation, right? So say you're going to go work for, I don't know, Capital One, which is a huge banking organization. They're gonna you have to know PCI DSS in order to work for them, and potentially SOX, if I'm not mistaken. If you don't know PCI DSS, then you're not going to be able to work there as GRC because you have no idea what they have to be compliant with, right? So I think from that standpoint, a regulation and applying to a sector that has to abide by that regulation is a lot easier. I'm not saying it's easy, it's easier than having to understand and get certified in different technical aspects. Would you agree?
I would agree. Yeah.
And I know I got some GRC people in the chat, Natalie. So if you want to chime in on that one, feel free. But yeah, I think learning regulation, not necessarily how to apply it, but learning regulation, as long as you understand the terminology behind it, is an easier area to get involved with, and even the framework. So NIST, CIS, whatever, than trying to gather a full and complete understanding of even the foundations and basics of any technical field.
I'm studying for the Sec Plus right now, and I would agree. Just I do think GRC is just a bit easier. It's really, you're just learning a new sector of English if you're to go with a language kind of deal versus going into the technical side of being like, oh, this is French here, and I have never spoken French in my life. So
right,
yeah,
I would agree. I think I used to not really understand GRC. Like, I understood regulation. I didn't even know what GRC was, even though I was part of GRC, but not like, it was never in my title. But I had to learn PCI DSS. I had to understand it completely. And looking through the regulations, looking through a lot of frameworks like NIST and CIS, I think that from a standpoint of growing up technical and understanding how hard it is to learn the technical, it's easier for a lot of people to read and understand what is written versus having to explain what is technical. It's easy to go to a company and say, you have to abide by X, Y, and Z. We're going to bring in a technical resource that can kind of explain some of this, but you can speak to the regulations and things like that. But from a technical standpoint, you may not have that full backing, right? You can't speak to, well, what's the best way to secure a firewall, or well, what is EDR and why is this important, or what's an IPS? Like, you may not understand any of these, so you don't know how to speak to them to know how they're secured, or even Okta or like single sign-on in MFA. But from a regulation standpoint, you can say, do you have this? Do you have that? Okay. And I think that when you're looking at it from a risk perspective, GRC helps improve, and it's a lot easier to learn.
Agreed. It definitely is a lot easier. And then once you're in the GRC world, you can branch out to those around you and then learn the technical side piece by piece versus taking it from a fire hose, essentially.
Yeah.
And I've seen that as a lot easier.
And depending on who you are, you're absolutely correct. Like, I learn best from a fire hose. If you go too slow, I'm going to get bored. But give me
Fair
a
enough.
week's worth of training. Give me 6 months worth of training in a week. We're good to go. But everybody's different, right? But Natalie did say, and she's right. Learning, one regulation is easier than learning a bunch of different standards. But it's smarter to learn NIST and learn how to tie them all back to the NIST framework. And I've seen that frequently done. CMMC 2.0 is based almost solely on NIST. They just put their own numbers on it and words, but it's the exact same thing. So, otherwise, I said we get into random ass topics around here. That's kind of what we do.
Let's do it.
What has been your favorite thing about getting into cybersecurity?
My favorite thing about getting into it. Truly, it's kept my mind all over the place. I've had a good time just learning the new information, processing everything, taking in these giant kind of documents, and just absorbing all the information, working with the client and with the team. To be honest with you, such an interesting background, and it's people oriented, but yet so technical. It's a very odd mix of that. I don't know. I guess that's the high overview of what I like about it.
Are you in more of a consulting position, or are you with a specific organization? And that's gonna gear my next question. That's why I asked that. So Do you work with multiple clients, or do you work with one company and do just their GRC? And I'm sure I know the answer, but I want you to say it so everybody else knows.
Multiple clients.
Okay. So with that, do you find having that exposure to multiple regulations, multiple clients, multiple organizations helps you understand better the security within different areas?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, you have more exposure overall.
Would you say that, and this is going to get hard because I have conflicting opinions on this, but I want to hear your take.
Okay.
As a junior in the industry, do you feel more people should be consultants at a junior level that work with multiple clients, or do you feel they should work with one organization and just concentrate on that?
Ooh.
I have conflicting opinions, so I want to hear your thoughts.
So this depends. I think this depends on the person, to be honest with you, because it depends how in depth do you want them to get, right? If someone is super detail oriented, I'd probably say stick them on one client and have them learn the ins and outs and really master that foundation. But then when it comes to someone like me, I have done, and historically I've done well with having a high level view of everything that's going on, knowing that there's different kind of frameworks, knowing that there's a multitude of whatever's going on, and then working with it simultaneously has helped me. But I know there are people who are different. I go and learn better with having multiple.
I see that. Yeah. So here's my take on it, and this comes solely from a business perspective, not from a technical perspective. So from a business perspective, if I'm an organization, I have the ability and the capability to hire different levels, right? And be able to bring in these juniors, these seniors, these mid levels that have run the gambit or brand new. As a consultant, it becomes very difficult to do that because I have to have you client facing, and these clients want experts in the industry. They want people that know their shit, and they can't be hesitant. They have to be confident. They have to be able to deliver the information. And even they don't know, they got to sound like they know, and then they got to come back and ask for support, or they got to be in chat while they're talking saying, "Hey, can you give me an answer real quick?" And then they can deliver the answer. So, but I think from your perspective, and again, I feel the same way, being able to work with multiple clients, no matter what it is, blue team, red team, GRC, you name it, being able to work with multiple clients and be able to get that exposure to different tech stacks and different capabilities and different frameworks and regulations does a lot more for those trying to learn and understand than just working with one organization. Because then you get siloed in and you have to do the exact same thing over and over and over again. It becomes monotonous and you may just get burnt out and bored. Let's be honest. That happens to a lot of people. So it's hard because from a business perspective, I understand the need of consultants to have more experience. From a learning perspective and from a technical perspective, I understand why it would make more sense to have juniors that can learn and grow within it as long as they can be confident.
Confidence is key then for you when it's client facing. What, from your perspective, what has over the years, I guess with you, what has created that being such a critical feature?
Because clients, when they go to someone that's when clients approach a consulting agency or an MSSP or anything like that, it is because they do not have the capability to fully staff a security organization, right? So they can't have a full security department there, or they don't have one at all. One of the two. So they're approaching an organization and they need that expertise. They need someone that knows their shit. And as a company that is a consulting company, you sell yourself as hiring experts, knowing you have juniors and mid-level that haven't been in the industry as long, but everybody needs a job and you need to train them and you need to build them up. If you want to keep that consulting job, you're going to sit there and you're going to sell yourself. I don't care if you don't know it. You're going to sound like you do. You're going to sit there and from the absolute bottom of your heart, from your chest, from your soul, you're gonna be like, this is, what we need to do, even if you're not sure. And if you're not sure about it, right? So let's take it from a perspective of, do you know how to do X, Y, and Z? Yep. Have you ever dealt with X, Y, and Z? Yep. Have you had to troubleshoot issues on this operating system with this? Yep. Have you fixed it? Yep. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You just come off. You don't second guess yourself. You just go. And it's for two reasons. One, in order for you to get paid, that the company you work for needs to get paid, which means you need to get that business. You need to make sure that client's happy. The other reason is most consulting firms give you the ability to learn on the fly. That is where you'll get your ability to learn and grow. So if you don't sound confident and you're not able to sell that client's going to get unhappy real quick. They're going to push you off. You're not going to be able to learn that technology. Whereas if you sound confident about it, you're not working with them 40 hours a week. It may be a couple hours a week. Guess what? In your off time, let's figure out what I need to do. Let's figure out what this does. Let's figure out how this works. Let's figure out, they asked me about X, Y, and Z. Let's figure it out. Even if I didn't know it, I'm going to know it right now. We're going to figure out, we're going to play with it. We're going to build a lab. We're going to do whatever we need to do. From a technical standpoint, that gives you the ability to build that confidence, because now you have that ability to learn. But at the same time, that confidence sells every time. Your ability to sell yourself, sell your company, and sell your organization, whether that's in GRC, blue team, or red team, is what is going to A, keep you employed, and B, get you raises and bonuses throughout your career. Is you have to go in there and sell to clients from a consulting perspective that you're confident and you can do it. From an organizational perspective, if you come in as a junior and they're just kind of like, yeah, we just need someone that we're going to train and they're going to learn and grow, but they're only going to know PCI, or they're only going to know some blue team tool. Okay. Like, they expect you to have a foundational knowledge, and then they're going to teach you this tool, and you're going to become the SME of this tool, and this tool is all you're going to know. Cool. But outside of that tool, what can you do? Do you have any confidence outside of that?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I'm tracking what you're saying here. You're on it. You got a point.
It comes down to a standpoint of, in order for you to get paid working for a consulting company, your ass better be confident in everything you say. Even if you know the next question and you're asking somebody else in the back end, like, hey, I know this question's coming. Can you give me a solid answer, please, real quick? Can we do this? Is this possible? Like, what's going on? Like, whatever it takes to sell yourself and that company, that's what you need to be able to do, because that's what consultants do. Nobody knows everything. Not in GRC, not in blue team, not in red team. Nobody knows everything. It is utterly impossible. It is impossible to know every tool. It is impossible to know every regulation and every framework from front to back. It is impossible. So you have to be able to sell that confidence of, have you ever worked with this? Yep. Cool. Can you explain? Give me a question. What do you need to know? All right. I guess, have you ever deployed it? Oh yeah, I did that like 2 weeks ago. We're good.
No hesitation. Just grabbing it and going.
Just go.
Action. Just action.
Just go. I've had clients that have asked me about certain tools years ago. And now, a few years back, I've worked with Linux, but I never deployed EDR to it. I've always used it on my personal computer, used my own AV, own anti-malware, things like that. Never had to worry about it. And so years ago, it was like, hey, we have to deploy X, Y, and Z to Linux. Have you ever had to troubleshoot issues? No, actually, it went pretty flawlessly for me. Not a lie, because it did go flawlessly if you didn't do it. Just a second. Have you had to troubleshoot issues? Nah, I never had an issue with it. Worked great. Like, it's just one of those things, because you're going to figure it out. Because any company that's babysitting you when you're doing your job, any client rather, there's bigger issues there. I don't want to work with clients that are going to babysit my work. It's going to get done. I'm going to tell you what's going on. I'm going to tell you what's happening. You're going to give me the authority to do what I need to do, or you could do it yourself. I don't need you babysitting me.
I get that. Yeah.
This is what you hired me for. Why are you looking over my shoulder? Same thing from a GRC perspective. GRC, you get on interviews, you do your risk frameworks, you do your questionnaires, you do your audits and everything else. Clients ain't babysitting you. You ask them questions, and if they get in too in-depth in the weeds, you got a technical person there to help you out, to be like, oh yeah, you need to do this, this, and this. But when clients are babysitting everything you're doing, like, hey, I need an email every day. Homie, I'm GRC. I'm not going to have this risk table done today. Like, it's going to take me at least 3 months to do your shit. You got 10,000 assets and 55,000 servers. What do you want me to do? Like, come on. So
I guess, yeah.
It's one of those things, man. Some of these organizations are micromanagers, and yeah, micromanagement sucks. They micromanage their third parties. You pay us for a reason, let us do our job. Just,
Yeah.
Throwing that out there.
I get it. So you've got, in all of this, you've got confidence, communication, and action. Are there any other traits you see that are critical to be able to go make this sell, of not just the company, but yourself too?
Personality. Think about it. No matter what industry you work in, you sell a personality. You sell a person. Whether that's you going for a job, you selling a business, you selling whatever. It is a personality that sells. Yeah, that first look, right? So you look at someone like myself. I've got tattoos. I've got a beard. I've got a monitor. I do all these things. The back of my shirt says came for the beer, stayed for the conversation, which is available on cyberwarriorstudios.com, by the way. But at the end of the day, it's the personality. You sit me down with anybody at a bar and a beer, I will have them open up all their secrets, tell me everything they want, they don't want to tell you. They'll tell me. Because it's the personality, it's the ability to sit down and have a conversation with somebody.
Right. Yeah.
Even at work, I can sit down, be personable, and have a conversation with somebody. I may not want to, but it's my job, so I'm going to. So it's all on how your personality clicks. Do you keep it strictly professional, or do you get into those personal details? Because nobody wants to buy a product if that's all you talk about. They don't. They're buying from a person. They're not buying anything. They're buying from a person. So
they want to know why. Yeah. I get that.
Okay, they're buying from a friend.
I see you.
And that's the same way as GRC. That's the same way as everything else. As a consultant, you have to be that person that keeps them coming back for more. When I leave organizations as a consultant, clients get upset because I'm there and I'm going to sit there and I'm going to guide them. I'm going to help them, but they know I know my shit. But as a person, I sit there and I lift them up, and everything you see me do online, I do when I'm in calls. I ask them how their day is. I ask them, how the kids, what's going on? What's, their mental health, that just everything. Who I am when you see me online is who I am at work and who I am on a daily basis. It doesn't change. And so all that comes through. If I'm positive, upbeat, energetic, that's going to come off on the client. That's going to come off on the customer. And they're going to be more willing to talk to you. If you go into a meeting and you're like, yeah, I'm alive. Yeah, all right, cool. What are we doing today? All right, yeah. Yeah, all right. Let's do this. Okay, so here's your first question. Like, no one wants to talk to you and work with you. But you want them to open up about their risks, their vulnerabilities, their issues within the organization, all these other things. Be personable. Come off and be like, oh, yeah, man. So how the kids? Good? Yeah, man. Dude, my kids are playing football now. I got all this other stuff going on. Dude, it's crazy. It's been a busy week. And then you get into questions about the actual organization. They're more willing to open up because they're talking to a person now. they're not feeling like they're vulnerable because of who they're talking to. They're willing to open up. People open up to people. They don't open up to computers.
Agreed. I agree with you there. So then I guess it's a two-part question I got for you then for personality. What allowed you to develop your personality as it is? And then how does it differ when you're alone and when you're with other people?
I love how this podcast has turned around. It's actually pretty good. I love it. You being new, right? You've never met me before.
Right.
Me and you have never talked. How I am with you is how I am everywhere else.
Okay.
On everything, this is how I am. Now, when I am alone, that is when I process. That is when I mentally look in on myself. What is going on? What issues am I dealing with? Do I have to fix things? What are the problems I'm facing? Da 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 da. When I'm alone is when I take a look at myself. But when I'm with people, I'm the same, no matter who I'm with. The same guy you see here on your screen is the same guy you'll meet in person. It does not change. I like my beer. I like smoking. And, I like bullshitting with people.
Is that
Now,
Yingling right there?
Oh, yeah. Always.
Okay.
Always.
Pennsylvania all day. Okay.
I mean, I got the Broken Skull double IPA down here, but I've already had a full horn of moonshine.
Okay.
So I'm not trying to get in the double IPA today.
Okay. What part of
I'll end
Pennsylvania
up not sleeping.
are you from?
It'll be a bad night.
What part of Pennsylvania are you from?
By Pittsburgh.
Okay. Nice.
I'm about 3 hours from Natalie.
Okay. Yeah. I grew up a little outside of Scranton. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, I grew up playing sports. I never got along. Funny enough. All right. So since you asked the question, we're going to get into the story. I never grew up around guys. Well, I grew up around guys, but I never made friends with guys. I grew up with 3 older sisters. So the way guys interact when I was growing up, talking shit and making fun of each other, is just not how I got along. All my friends were women. And then as I go, like, I've had guy friends from playing sports and playing football and baseball and hockey and all these other things, but I was closest to women. And so I became very empathetic and very understanding in just how I was kind of came up in the world. But it also made me very talkative, because when you have 3 older sisters, they talk a lot. You're around a lot of women all the time. They talk a lot. I just talked a lot, but I didn't talk shit. It wasn't like me to make fun of people. What I became was someone who understood. And I took that into my adulthood. I never drank the Kool-Aid in the Army. I didn't become some Uber airborne ranger that was just like, yeah, hoorah PT. No, let me do my tech job in IT. Because I grew up on computers from the time I was 7 or 8 years old. So being a techie and a jock, you learn about a lot of things. And I learned I love computers and I love playing football. And I just kind of established that growing up and became empathetic and able to talk to anybody. I listened to all kinds of music, from, Eminem to NSYNC to Brooks and Dunn and everything else. It didn't matter to me. As long as it wasn't classical or jazz and actually had a beat and some words, generally I'll listen to it, including Blues Travelers. Like, I listen to just about everything. And for me, I just been who I am. And as I got older, give me a beer and a conversation, I will talk all day. All day. As long as it's a topic I care about. If it's something I don't care about, I'm going to get up and walk away. I can't help it. I'm just like, if you have nothing of interest for me, I'm out. See ya. I don't want to deal with you. You find your tribes. And mine has always been football, especially the Pittsburgh Steelers, and computers. If it isn't one of those 2 things, I hope you got a good Cards Against the Humanity game and can make me laugh, because I'm out.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. That's awesome.
But that's how
yeah, such a wide variety of of inputs, I guess, right? Such a broad source of information coming in. You have to learn how to go and understand the people that are around you. That makes a lot of sense.
And that's the thing. I grew up in the city, so I wasn't. You figure, all right. So let's look at it this way. A lot of people are brought up in one of two areas. Well, we'll say one of three. You've got your country, right? So all they know is country living. So farming, hard work, determination, blue collar living. You've got your suburbs, which are usually a little more hoity-toity and they have more money. And then you've got not rich. Blue collar, kind of either in the ghetto or just outside the ghetto because your parents are taking out every loan they can take just to, help you get by and put you in sports and get you to school. That was me. I grew up the lowest of middle class you can grow up. Wasn't poor, but I was far from middle to higher middle class. So I grew up around everybody. I went to a city, I went to public schools my entire life. I didn't go to private schools. I didn't go to religious schools. I didn't go to anything like that. Public schools my entire life. I got exposed to everybody. I was not isolated. I didn't grow up under a rock. I knew swear words from the time I was a kid. I knew what alcohol was and smoking. My parents smoked in the car and in the house. Like all these different things I was exposed to. And then I got exposed to tech at a young age. And that was my output because, like I said, I didn't get along with guys all that much. People I played football with, yeah, they were cool. Wasn't friends with all of them, but they were cool. But I fell in love with computers because computers can't lie to you. They only do what you tell them to do. People lie. Computers don't. You break a computer, it's because you did something wrong. You break a program, it's because you forced it to do something it wasn't supposed to do. Humans have free will. They can lie, cheat, and steal. And I didn't want to deal with that. So computers became my way of life. And I took that, grew up. My computer almost went in black. I don't know why. But that's how I lived. And so I'd still play football to this day if my back could take it. Because I could take all my anger out on a football field instead of going to a gym and hurting myself. I never got hurt playing football. I hurt myself at a gym not playing football. I hate gyms.
What position did you play?
Linebacker.
Nice.
I love linebacker. Dude, you put me in a linebacker all day. All day. You put me anywhere else, I was lost. I couldn't catch the ball for shit. I had stone hands. As a lineman, all right, so the last time I played football officially with pads was my senior year of high school. I was 5'10" and a half, $165. The dudes we played against were about 6 foot plus and well over 200 pounds. That shit hurt because my coaches played favorites and they didn't like me, so they put me on the line. When you're looking up the motherfuckers at 5'10" and a half, you're looking at yourself and looking at them, all you're thinking is this shit's gonna hurt. And it did.
Oh, I bet.
But growing up, I played linebacker. And it was one of those positions I loved. I hated being in a 3-point stance. Put me in a 2-point stance, let me blitz or cover the running back all day.
Perfect.
I'm golden. Or even put me in a QB spy. I will follow a quarterback's eyes and fuck with them all day too. I didn't care. But you start telling me to cover zones, I'm going to look at you like you're stupid. I'm like, you want me to do what?
Were you an inside or outside linebacker?
Middle linebacker.
Middle? Okay, nice.
So,
okay.
All right. So we're getting on a football talk right now. So we're gonna keep this going because we got 5 minutes left. We're gonna end it with football talk, and then we're gonna get into your final advice to newcomers. But I will say this: my senior year of high school. So I didn't play high school ball my freshman, sophomore, junior year. So 9th through 11th grade, I didn't play high school ball because my 9th grade year, I still had 1 year left of my midget league because of my age. I started school young, got into high school young. I was able to finish out my year. 10th and 11th grade year, our team sucked. Carrick High School sucked balls, lost every game. Absolutely horrible. Didn't want to play for them because I came from an undefeated team and a team that knew how to win football games. So my senior year, I miss it that much. I go out there. I was like, hey, I want to play. They're like, all right, what position? I said, linebacker. So we have linebackers. They ain't done you no good in 3 years.
I didn't get that. Could you try?
I was like, so what? They're like, you'll play line. I'll do what? They're like, you're going to play line. I got my ass kicked every time. So then the one game, almost all our linebackers get hurt. This is why I say I hate when you tell me to cover somebody. They put me in an outside linebacker. This little run back came running around the outside. He went to go clear the pile. I said, fuck you. I'm clearing the pile with you. Cleared him out. Out. My coach is like, yeah, you're staying in. Next play. You're covering a flat. What the fuck is that? Never practiced linebacker. Had no reason to learn it. I didn't know their plays. I know what the hell I was doing. They're like, over there. I'm like, over where? Same running back I just cleared out. Caught the ball, ran for about 40 yards. I was like, well, you're out. I'm like, all right, cool. I don't know what you want me to do about it. But I loved linebacker. Growing up, it was different. Had they practiced me at linebacker, completely different story. Would have learned the routes, learned the positions, learned the coverages, all this other stuff. But when all you learn is line for your senior year of high school, okay, I'm going to go in, try to get to the quarterback, and that's all there is to it. And I'm going to get my ass kicked every play because I am about a third the size of these people. And this shit's going to hurt.
You took it on, though. You went for it and had a good time.
Dude, I had a blast. I loved it. Because the one dude so there was a dude on the team they really didn't like. Not the coaches, but the players. He was a little shorter than me, but he was definitely wider than me. And they're like, take him out. Okay. Dude, Oklahoma's all day. Clear him out. All day. All day. Gone.
I love it. Love it. I love it.
So, but I love football. So it's great because my one son's playing football this year. My other son's going to join next year. I'm probably going to try to coach next year. So saying that, starting next year, this show might have a change during football season. We'll find out. But as of right now, we're still continuing every week. But starting next year, we may have to take a seasonal break while I do Friday practices. But look, otherwise, we are coming to the top of the hour. And I want to get your final words because you've been amazing. You've asked me a lot of questions. You really have. Not many people do that and know how to turn a conversation around. So I'm really happy that you did because it means you want to learn and grow and you're trying to provide more information to the community, which in my eyes is always very, very important. So before we go, if you have any advice to anybody trying to break in, whether it's GRC, blue team, red team, anything, what advice would you give them?
Persistence. You have to keep trying for it, keep reaching out to the network you have, keep searching for every opportunity that you can get because you never know when one's going to happen. You never know when it's going to occur, right? It's, if apply, work within the network, reach out 1,000 times, and maybe that 1,000th first time you'll actually get it. So just go for it and keep going. If you really want to be here, put your foot on the gas and don't take it off.
Definitely. I completely agree. It's your persistence, your drive is everything. In this industry, there's a lot of things that can happen. You're going to get kicked down, knocked down, beat down. There's a lot of negativity around there. You're going to find a lot of negativity around you. It's all about your community and your tribe and the way you network. When you look at people like Ellie, Natalie Baker, Space Tacos, and if you don't know who she is, watch some of my other episodes, you'll find her. Infinite Improbability AI, SARNAR, Jack Hewitt, Amanda Halton, Andrea Myler, Wanawa Tarver. I probably butchered that. I've been drinking, so don't judge me. All these people, my network, my warriors, my tribe are there, and they're going to help you, and they're going to help you grow. They're going to help you learn. They're going to push you in the right direction. Don't ever hesitate to reach out to any of us. Otherwise, look, here's the deal. This show right here, Security Happy Hour, is nothing without you, the audience. You have to like, you have to donate, you have to share, you have to subscribe. You have to get the word out there. I am a one-man show, and I only got so much money. Again, like 5 kids. So I cannot do all the advertising. I can't afford to pay all these companies. But look, otherwise, come back after the show. Leave your comments. Let that shit play on mute. I really don't care. But you've all been amazing. Thank you for being in chat. Thank you for being here this evening. You're all amazing people. And if you do want to donate, please check the description in the YouTube video below. All the links are there, as well as how you connect with Ellie. His information is there for LinkedIn as well. Take care. Have a fantastic weekend. And I will most definitely catch you all next week with another amazing episode of Security Happy Hour.